and welcome to the Organic Beehive. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing my 5 tips for getting pregnant. In the past year, I have been pregnant 3 different times, so I feel like I have a little bit of an idea on how to get pregnant. But before we get started, I wanted to share with you a couple little updates. So last week I was at my mom's not for Thanksgiving, it was the week of Thanksgiving that I was there. My godmother was visiting. I'm not related to my godmother. She is just my mother's best friend, growing up. And so she asked her, obviously, to be my godmother. And I love being able to see her because with my very first miscarriage, she was actually there. I was at my mom's when I miscarried, and she was there, and she was just so helpful. She had so many encouraging words to say to me, and she was just the perfect person to be there when I went through all of that, because she herself had struggled with infertility for many years. She does have one biological daughter, and then she did adopt another little girl, but they're not so little anymore. But I don't know, I guess there's so many synchronicities for me, so many similarities that happened with this miscarriage and my first. And so, I don't know, maybe I'm just telling stories in my head to give me this hope, but I kind of feel like everything has just come full circle. And obviously I don't know what the future holds, but I'm just really hopeful. So anyways, I saw her, and it was just great to be able to share kind of what's going on, because she went through the same thing, 20 years ago. So that was really good. While we were there, we also did some thrift store shopping. I got a mirror that I had been looking for my dresser. Found her for $6. I'm not sure if I'm gonna finish it just yet, but for now it matches the dresser really well, so I'm just gonna stick with it. And then another bonus for me going over to see my mom was when we were pregnant, one of the things that we wanted was a big freezer. We were kind of leaning toward just a chest freezer because it was cheaper, but we thought we would look on, Facebook Marketplace and different garage sale sites to see if we could find, any type of freezer. And my mom lives in this really nice, kind of like a retirement community. I mean, you don't have to be retired to live there, but that's kind of what happens with the homes there, is retired people kind of scoop them up. But I just asked, would you look on your community garage sale site to see, if there's a freezer? And she ended up finding one. It was huge. For an upright freezer like that, probably cost upwards of $800, which is not in our budget. But we got the freezer for $100, and my mom graciously gifted that for us as an early Christmas present. So I recommend you stay tuned, because I will have probably some content on what we're doing with the freezer, where we're putting it, how we're going to organize it, what we're going to put in there, and all of the things. So I'm excited to share about that soon. But today's video is all about getting pregnant. So if this is something you have been struggling with, then these are just some tips that I'd like to share. Now keep in mind, I'm not a medical professional, This is all just things that I have done personally, but I would do your own research. And in fact, this is going to be kind of like a Cliff Notes version. I could probably do a video on each tip for today, but that would take a really long time. So again, I'm just going to give you the Cliff Notes, and then I will send you over for some resources so that you can be able to do a little bit of that research on your own. So without further ado, let's get started. Tip number 1 is making sure that the products in your home are clean. Now, believe me, I've heard a lot of people say that you should clean your products up, and they make homemade ones, but not many people really tell you the science behind why that is important. There are a lot of chemicals out there in the market that we can easily purchase, whether that's through our body wash, candles, cleaning products, you name it. There is probably a product out there with a variety of chemicals. I will always look for cleaner products. Now, there's a couple different apps that you can use to determine whether a product is clean or not. Think Dirty is an app that you can use, and then the Environmental Working Group also has a site that can help you determine whether a product is clean. I don't have the apps because usually I just read the ingredients, or I've been doing this for so long that I'm pretty familiar with what I want to look for and what I don't want to look for, and I have found my ride or die products. But normally what you would do with an app like Think Dirty is you would download it, and then say you go to the store and you find shampoo that you have been wanting to purchase. You would scan the barcode, and then it would tell you the rating. Usually green would mean it's really good and clean, yellow not so good, and then red you would definitely want to steer clear from. And the reason behind that is all these chemicals like glyphosate and fragrance and so on, there's so many to mention, but all of those types of ingredients and chemicals are what is called an endocrine disruptor. And in layman's terms, just basically means your hormones get out of balance from these things. I have a whole blog post and video, if you want to check it out, in the description below, describing, why I steer clear of commercial cleaners, and it goes into a little more of the science behind what an endocrine disruptor is and how it affects your body. So that is tip number 1. Tip number 2 would be to eat like you are pregnant. This one, unfortunately, I had to find out the hard way. When I was pregnant with my daughter, I didn't necessarily eat bad. Like, I don't like to use the term bad foods or good foods or whatever, but in general, I don't feel like I ate bad foods, but I definitely didn't eat with the focus on like nutrient dense foods. And so when I had my daughter, I started struggling with a lot of postpartum depression. Now, there were a lot of factors that went into it. For one, I had moved into a completely new state with a new baby. I didn't have any friends, and although my family was closer to us, they were still 3 hours away. So I didn't have help from family either. My husband was working long hours. So that alone would be very difficult for any first-time mom Not to mention, I had a daughter who wasn't sleeping well. I wouldn't necessarily label her as a colicky baby, but she definitely was fussy. And so obviously those things contributed to my postpartum depression. But another, piece of the puzzle that did contribute to it, I believe, was the fact that I was so mineral deficient. And I didn't find that out till about probably 2 years later, when my daughter was 2 or 3. I had a hair analysis test done, and it tested all of my mineral levels, and a lot of them were very, very low. There's a lot of factors that go into that. For one, I was drinking a lot of filtered water, which we know that we need water to survive. But the filtered water also takes out minerals from that water. And so basically what I was doing was just washing all the minerals out. So if you're drinking filtered water, you might want to look into, what I do is I add minerals back into my water after it is filtered, and I use what are called trace mineral drops. I've looked around for pricing. I've seen some at health food stores, at Sprouts, I believe. I've bought it off of Amazon, but from what I have seen, the cheapest place to get these trace mineral drops is Azure Standard. So that is where I've been currently getting mine. I've been doing it for years, and my husband and I have both seen improvement in how we feel. I kind of got off on a tangent there. Not really, but minerals and nutrient-dense foods are some things that you really want to focus on. So my second tip is pretty much to eat like you are pregnant. So there are a couple books that I would recommend just to give you a little guidance in what does it mean to eat that way, to eat nutrient dense. The first one is called Real Food for Pregnancy. It's by Lily Nichols, and most of these books, they even have recipes in there, but there's a lot of good science between why you should eat certain things and what it does for you and your baby. But like I said, there was a statistic that I read a couple years ago that was when you are pregnant, you lose 4 pounds or 10% of your minerals. That's a huge number, just to drive home that need for you to eat healthy. The second book that I recommend also is the Nourishing Traditions book of baby and child care. This is by Sally Fallon and Thomas Cohen. This is kind of how I lean toward as far as how my family and I eat. Of course, everyone has their own ideas of what healthy eating is, but this is just personally what I believe in. And she also has a lot of good recipes in here and tips for pregnancy and all of that. So these two books are really great resources if you're looking to research a little bit more on your own and what it means to eat like you're pregnant. Tip number 3, and this is a really hard one, and I even hesitate to mention this because stress is such a huge part of our culture, with this hustle and bustle, and it's almost like this badge of honor to be busy. And I understand that we cannot always change the circumstances of our life. So what I'm trying to get at is I don't want you to stress about stress by me sharing this tip. That's not what I'm about. But I do encourage you to take a closer look at your lifestyle and figure out if there are some things that you can personally take off your plate. Because what happens when you are stressed, whether it was thousands of years ago when we were being chased by a lion, or in today's world, that stress can be, we're late for work. They both have like that same sensation that happens in your body. You go through fight or flight mode in your body, and your body uses all of that energy to get away from that danger, whether it's a lion or being late from work. Your body feels it just the same way. And if your body is using all of that energy for fight or flight, it's kind of giving your body this signal that it is not safe to have a baby. So if you notice yourself in some stressful times, maybe it's a phase, maybe it's not, maybe you need to look into your lifestyle and determine what you can take off of your plate. Because if you are wanting to get pregnant and it's really important to you, that could be that missing factor for you. Again, I don't want you to stress about stress, but I do want you to be aware of that. Tip number 4 is to track your cycle. This is a huge piece of the, they're all big pieces of the puzzle, but this one I think can be misinterpreted sometimes. So our medical industry as a whole, says that women have a 28-day cycle, and around day 14 you ovulate. And these are based on averages, really. So you may not actually have your period on day 28. It could be 29, 30, 31. And that goes the same for ovulating. You might not be ovulating on day 14. You may be doing it earlier, you may be doing it later. And so that's why it is very important to track your cycle. So there's a few different things that I do to help me figure out where I am in my cycle. And if you have little ones in the room, you might want to wear headphones or something. But I'm going to go through some of the science terms that they might not have heard before, and I'm sure you might not want to answer questions about just yet. So maybe go into another room really quick while I talk about it. The first thing that I look at is, I think in the fertility world, they'll abbreviate it CM, cervical mucus. Not a very pleasant term, but it is one of the biggest factors for helping you to determine where you're at in your cycle. So a really great book, and I did a thrift store haul video on this, and I found this book was How to Take Charge of Your Fertility. This book is a great resource that will give you a closer look into how your cycle works, the ebbs and flows of it, what to look for. So that is one I would definitely recommend for you as far as like what to look at with your cervical mucus. But that happens when you are ovulating. So if you notice that discharge, now is the time to try. The other thing I track is my body temperature. This I started doing in March of this year, and the next month I got pregnant. And then I obviously got pregnant again a couple months later once my cycles regulated after the miscarriages. This was huge for me, just tracking my temperature. So again, I am oversimplifying this, but at the first part of your cycle, your temperature tends to be lower. So maybe in the 97 point something degrees. I mean, you'll have ebbs and flows, but usually they stay within a range. And then the day after you ovulate, you will find that jump. Your temperature will rise, and then for the rest of your cycle, your temperature should be generally up here. So the first part of your cycle is down here, and then after you ovulate, it will go up. Now, tracking your temperatures isn't going to necessarily help you know when you ovulate. It's not going to tell you exactly when, because remember, your temperature rises after you ovulate, but it will give you a really good idea if you track for many months. It can be hard to track your temperatures if you don't have a really good sleep schedule, or let's say you're a mom, with a toddler still getting up in the middle of the night, maybe you're still nursing. If you're not getting that regular sleep, you might not get an accurate reading of your temperatures, so it will be hard to really see where you're at as far as your cycle goes. But like I said, that book, Taking Charge of Your Fertility, goes into so much more detail. So if that is something that you want to research more on your own, I would definitely recommend that book, and I will link it in the description below. And then as far as tracking all of that, temperatures and discharge and all of that stuff, the app that I really love is Kindara. That's Kindara. It's a free app. I believe it's across all phones. I have an Android, but it tracks. You're able to see the temperatures, so you'll be able to see the pattern that happens, and you can mark down, if you do ovulation tests and pregnancy tests, and it has you typing in symptoms if you want. But I think it's a really detailed way to be able to track your cycle month in and month out. So that is my fourth tip for you. My fifth and final tip for you today would be a period cup. This is something that also kind of revolutionized, my plan for getting pregnant. What you would do is, after you do the deed, you would put your period cup on, and probably, I guess it depends on when you do it. If you do it at night, I would just keep it on overnight and then take it out in the morning. If you do it during the day, I would probably leave it in about 5 or 6 hours. But what it does is it keeps that sperm closer to your cervix, and plus you have a number of them up there, and it kind of just holds it up there and kind of gives them a better chance of, fertilizing. So that's my other quick and easy tip. Again, period cups you can buy in a lot of different places. I think I've seen them at health food stores. I've purchased them on Amazon, so I will go ahead and link another period cup for you in the description below. And then I also wanted to add, I have gotten some really cheap pregnancy tests and ovulation tests on Amazon. They're just kind of like flimsy little paper strips, I guess, but they're really accurate. And that pained me every month that I thought I was pregnant, and I was or wasn't or whatever. I was wasting those pregnancy tests, and even the cheap ones at the store, I could probably get a couple of them for, I don't know, $10 to $15. It's expensive. So on Amazon, you can get like 50? Yeah, I think you can get like a pack of 50 of these tests for under $20. It's so much cheaper. So I am going to link that for you as well in the description below. I'm not sure how much more of these fertility talks I will be doing. I've got blood work scheduled, just some routine blood work scheduled for later in this week, and my thought is after that I'll be talking with the doctor just to see about results and things of that nature. And, you know, cross your fingers, I can get the go-ahead to keep trying. Like I said, I still think like we all hold on to that hope, and I am right now. If you liked this video, I don't always share about fertility. I like to share a lot of things home, whether that's homesteading, homeschooling, or even homemaking. I like those things too, and that's what I tend to share more on. So if that resonates with you, I would love for you to subscribe and join our little community. And also, please like or comment below with what you would like to see here on the Organic Beehive channel. I'd love to hear your comments. I'm still trying to figure out what I like to share, what you guys like to see. And so any comments down below are not only helpful for me to know what to film for you guys, but also it just kind of helps YouTube know that you like what you see, and it'll help my videos get shown to more people. So I thank you and appreciate you for being here today, and I will see you in the next video.